So I think the biggest thing for me, that I didn't know at the time, but now looking back, I'm like, it was so obvious. But being a first gen college student, was a huge part of my identity, or is a huge part of my identity. And I just remember like it was really hard to navigate like the FAFSA, the first, I mean, it still is, but like that first time that I had to fill it out, it was really hard to navigate. And like, I really had to do college applications by myself. And so I think what drew me to Marquette was the Educational Opportunity Program, and knowing that I would have a support system coming in to Marquette that is familiar with the hurdles that first generation college students face or that students of color on this campus face. So I know that there's a lot of stuff around Marquette being predominantly white, that can scare people away, but I think the existing support systems like that, really drew me in and kept me here because I knew, like, I remember thinking in the back of my head, I was like, okay, like, there's no way for me to fail because there's support systems all around me, which I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but I think when I was initially coming in, it drew me in. And then I think what's kept me here are those support systems like EOP and Berk Scholars. They've kept me grounded. They've kept me here because I have found support, and then those programs too have given me a lot of my friends. And those friendships and joining organizations is really what kind of like kept me here as well. Like, yes, I love nursing, but you can study nursing wherever, really. But I think that those friendships and those support systems that I found here, um, like I couldn't find them anywhere else. It's something that I still use. So with like the first year stuff, like with Rise, the multicultural like orientation, that's something that's still constant. So I was a Rise mentor last year, and it's all for the incoming freshmen, and then after you're done with the program, it's a continuation. Like they don't just like stop communicating with you. It's continuous support throughout your years, and there's like check-ins and there's events, and it's like how can I help you survive college. So I really like that it's continuous. EOP as well for the students that are in it. Like they do an intense like summer program for you to like get ready, but then the rest of your 4 years you have an advisor, that's assigned to you, and you check in with them, and they provide like resources like tutoring or even just like a free meal every now and then. So it's nice because it's continuous. It's not just like we're going to teach you things freshman year and then let you on your own. There's always a support system. So I think this is like super cheesy, but so the day that Elizabeth and I won the election, was is probably like one of the most memorable days ever. It was on my birthday too, which just like it was a lot that day. But all throughout our campaign, we had felt really supported by our peers and our professors and our different mentors. And that day, I think it all just kind of like came full circle. And I just remember the outpouring support from all of our friends. Like everyone was like texting us or commenting on our pictures or like stopping into the office to say, hey, congrats. And I think that's like one of the few times on campus or in my like Marquette career that I have felt like fully embraced by the Marquette community, and it felt really heartwarming. I felt like hugged by everyone, even though we can't hug in person. But I'll never forget the energy that day. It was overwhelming in a good way. Because even though our phones were blowing up and we were just kind of like swamped with like emails and like, oh, like can you make a comment about this or can you talk about this? It was just it was a positive energy overall. And like I'll never like forget that feeling of just like I don't know, it was like euphoric because you can't like mentally prepare yourself for that. But once it hits, it was such a good feeling to like I don't know if this is like making sense. I'm kind of rambling, but it was just like such a good feeling of knowing that like you worked hard for it and your peers like believe in you and support you and aren't just like shrugging it off. Like it was a big deal for us, but it was a big deal for our friends as well. So we just felt really embraced and loved that day. And I will never forget that feeling. Yeah, I think so. It's so funny. All of our friends are always like checking up on us and asking like, "Oh, how is MUSG? How is being president?" Or it's so weird to me, but like a lot of my friends now refer to me like, "Oh, Madam President, like how are you?" And it's so like weird to me. Like I never thought that I would like be here. And just like to know that I am here is like exciting, and knowing that like my friends, even the ones that aren't like directly involved in MUSG, are always interested in what's going on and what we're working on, and are interested in checking up on us and how we're doing personally. It's really heartwarming, and I think it's a different culture than MUSG has had before. So I still feel very much embraced. There's several spaces. I feel like I belong to a lot of different like niches within campus. So the first one, of course, is MUSG. I feel at home here. It's been such a big part of my college career since sophomore year. So I always feel comfortable here, regardless of like the position that I was in or the role that I was serving in. So I've always felt welcomed and embraced, and like what I had to say mattered. I think a couple other spaces that I feel community in is with EOP, so Educational Opportunity Program, and then like the subgroup that I'm in is Student Support Services, over in Coughlin on the third floor, and that's just a space full of first gen students and students of color. It was my first introduction to Marquette, so I did a summer program with them right before freshman year, and that's where I built like the majority of my first friendships here at Marquette, with those students who share like similar experiences as I do. So whenever I go in there, it just feels like home, and I know people there with similar experiences to me, but also unique experiences, and I think we're tied together by being first gen or being students of color. And that's like a place where I feel really at home. I think another big one too is with the Burke Scholars. I've been a Burke Scholar since freshman year, and that's also kind of a community of students driven by service and that are passionate about serving in the community. One of the biggest reasons that I came to Marquette was because of service and that ability to give back to the community. And I just feel really at home with that community as well, because we all have unique perspectives, but we're like-minded in the sense that we're passionate about giving back to the community and giving back to those who have poured in resources for us. So lots of different places on campus that I feel at home at. So junior year, second semester, there was two classes that I felt really impacted me. The first one was our community health class, for the nurses, and that's one of the first classes where we finally kind of explored like health disparities a lot more deeper in our curriculum, because I felt like that had been something that was lacking in my nursing curriculum. And junior year, we really got into health disparities and the way our healthcare system is set up and the way public health is set up. And that was really impactful because it all comes back to like servant leadership, and how the nurse's role is a leader in the community. It's not just a nurse, like nurses are leaders as well. And I think that really shaped my outlook on nursing and just leadership in general. And now when someone says like, oh, you're just a nurse, it's like, well, no, I'm more than just a nurse. I'm a trailblazer in the community, and we help with public health and we help with all these different things. And that was really impactful because it helps you kind of realize, or at least for me, it helped me kind of more realize that self-worth as a nurse and how we impact patients in more than one way. Um, Another class, I think it was my second theology that I took. It was a class of Dr. Karen Ross. I think it's Christian Faith and Justice, something like that. And it was a class with Dr. Karen Ross, and she's such a great professor. And in that class, we dove deep into social justice issues and how like different scriptures in the Bible like relate to different things, and how different teachings, Catholic social teachings, like relate to social justice issues today. And it was just a really great class because we got to do a lot of dialogue. Like we didn't just read things from the Bible, or we didn't just like, compare and contrast different testaments or the different books of the Bible. We actually took like teachings from the church and applied them to modern day situations. And it was really great because we had a lot of different points of views in the class, and it was a good area for discussion and dialogue, which I think sometimes people are afraid to lean into. But that class really gave me a chance to, one, like practice how to like speak and how to like talk about my point of view and how to talk about what I think and how I interpret things. But it also really gave me the chance to listen to others and learn about different people's perspectives and how they think and how they view things, compared to myself. So I think those are two really good classes that I took junior year. So there's a couple of faculty members. One is not here anymore, but Laya Thomas was one of the executive directors for EOP. And I remember her, like, I think it was the end of freshman year, she had told me to apply for like a peer counselor position, which is like one of like the counselors for the summer program. And I was like, no, like I'm not ready. Like I don't feel like I'm there yet. And I remember her, like, she saw that potential before I even realized it was there of leadership. And she was like, I really see you as someone that's able to do this position or able to, mentor our students. And I remember, I think my biggest regret was that I didn't apply for that job that year. But she saw it before I even saw it, right? She knew that I would be good for the position. She knew that it would like jumpstart whatever I wanted to do. And I like denied it. I like didn't believe her. I like didn't take it seriously. But I think that was one of the first people like here at Marquette that like saw potential or saw something in me before I even realized it was there. I think someone else, hold on, there's a lot of great people on this campus. Dr. Terry Garcia over in the College of Nursing. She's director of Project Beyond 2. Um, I remember she had nominated me for an award, the Pedro Rupe Service Award. And I was just so blown away that she like had thought of me for that. And because I've always done service, like just like it's something that I do. It's part of like my routine. It's part of just who I am. And I never like saw it as something special on my end or something that had the potential for more. And she just kind of saw that. And it was right before like we had like decided to run or anything. So she also was one of those people that told me, she's like, well, I nominated you for this because I see you exemplifying these ideals of service, and it's something that I hadn't even seen in myself. And then I told her that I was going to run, and she was so excited for us, and she said like, oh well, I know you can do it, like I know you're good for this. So it's people like that that like nominate you for things or encourage you to apply for different things, because they see a potential in you before you see it in yourself. So I think both of those people in particular like saw the skills of leadership, of servant leadership in me before I realized that I was like fit for the role. So it's nice to know that someone else like noticed it before you. I think a couple of things. The main one, which was like on our platform, and it's something that we're really passionate about, is integrating more education about racial equity and justice into one, our core classes, but two, also our major classes, because I think sometimes that gets lost in the shuffle, and we're so concentrating on learning like technical skills, like for me, like, oh, I need to learn how to put an IV and I need to learn how to like recognize signs and symptoms. But I think it's really important to take a step back and think about how we need to know how to treat patients of different backgrounds, patients of different religions, of different cultural backgrounds, and how to properly serve them. And I think sometimes we get like so busy trying to learn everything else that we forget that that's a huge aspect, the social aspect of any major, and how to like care for people holistically, and how to erase our implicit biases, because those totally affect how we give care, how we treat our clients or our patients, or someone in a different job industry. Another one too, I think a big one for us is like those dining hall, like our dining meal plans, and kind of being able to have more options, especially for our commuter students or students that live off campus. Like food is a necessity, and we all need to be like properly like have proper nutrition for us to be successful in the classroom. And it's really hard to have only one option because not everyone like benefits from that. We're all so unique on this campus that like a one size fits all like meal plan or solution for anything never works for our entire student body. Um, and honestly, I think a really big one is like free parking on campus. Like if I was president for the day, I would like give everyone free parking at least for the day. And especially for students like our commuter students, like it's a pain in the butt having to like, it's just so difficult to navigate having to like schedule your classes around when you need to move your car if you don't have a parking pass, or if you have a parking pass, like how to build it into your budget to make sure you can afford it on a monthly basis, or like having to park down in the valley and then walk up or walk back when it's like midnight or 1 in the morning or something like that. So there's a lot of concerns like about price and about safety for our students. So just a couple things. Yeah, I think the biggest thing for our students who are part of a more privileged group or who haven't been exposed to some of the disparities within our community is to seek out education, and be proactive about learning about different social justice issues and how their identities, are intertwined with them, and how their identities are intertwined with ours as well. But in a way where like you need to be proactive about searching for resources, and like being proactive about looking up, like there's a ton of like campus resources that offer, different workshops or different sessions for you to learn, instead of having to like go to your friends of color and ask them to like relive their traumas for you in order for you to learn. I think there's a balance between students of color that are comfortable sharing their experiences versus like, a student trying to like drag a student of color to talk about their experience for learning purposes. So I think the first step to like learn more about those things is to go and seek out education yourself, and not expect someone to just teach you about it, or expect like, me as a Latina to tell you about all the ways I've struggled as a Latina. Like we have to meet in the middle somewhere. I think thinking about intersectional identities and how, like, I'm first gen, but I'm also like a Latina on campus, and those are two very different things. That, being first gen doesn't look any single way, and being Latina on this campus doesn't look any single way. So I think it's in that aspect of like learning about things. It's like really important to remember that we all have like different identities that overlap, and not like, like there's not a single mold for students at Marquette, and then we have to think about how our resources like serve students and their different identities. Or when we're teaching about different things in our classroom, like it's not just a first gen student, or it's not just a Black student or a Latina student. Like we have all these intersectional identities about like our gender and our sexuality and our ethnicity and our race. So there's a lot of layers there to like dissect and think about, and not just like we can't just focus on one aspect. We have to focus on it holistically.